Hi, I'm Mike Reynolds, senior reporter covering the media industry with S&P Global Market Intelligence Tech, Media, and Telecom News Team. Welcome to Media Talk, a podcast hosted by S&P Global, where the news and research staff explore issues in the ever-evolving media landscape. Today, I'm joined by S&P Global Market Intelligence Kagan research analyst Richard Berndes, who's based in our London office. Last August, Richard and his twin boys, Dexter and Seb, joined us to preview the 2024-25 Premier League season. This time, it's just the two of us, and we're going to focus on several key soccer events this summer: the FIFA Club World Cup, the Women's Euros, and the CONCACAF Gold Cup. How you doing, Richard?
Yeah, it's great to be with you again, Mike.
All right. But before we discuss those three tournaments, I want to give Richard a chance to commemorate a result near and dear to his and his family's hearts. Trumpets are sounding to Tottenham, Richard.
Yes, Mike. Yeah, my beloved Tottenham Hotspur won a trophy for the first time in 17 years last week, and the first European trophy in 41 years. So it's great to call the mighty Tottenham Hotspur the European champions.
And there's an added bonus with that.
Yes, so we won the Europa League, and so that now qualifies us to play in the Champions League next season, and hopefully we'll be signing some suitable players to go as deep in that competition. Looking forward to it.
All right. Congrats to Tottenham and its supporters, notably Richard, Dexter, Seb, and the rest of the family. Let's turn to what is a de facto new tournament, the FIFA Club World Cup. Richard, can you tell us about this event and how it's shaping up in 2025?
Yeah, it's not really a new event as such, Mike. It's been going on for a fair few seasons. It's certainly been repackaged, repolished, and presented as a sort of a shiny new tournament. There'll be 32 teams this season. In terms of location, it's Miami, Seattle, LA, Orlando, Atlanta, Nashville, Charlotte, Cincinnati, Washington, Philadelphia, and New York and New Jersey. Essentially, what it is, 32 teams from the different international federations around the world. So there'll be Asia, Central America, North America, South America, Oceania, and from Europe. In terms of the teams, there's some big hitters from Europe: Bayern, Dortmund, Real Madrid, Man City, Chelsea, Inter Milan. The new European champions, PSG, amongst some of them. From North America, we're seeing Montreal, Seattle Sounders, and Pansata from Mexico. From Africa, we're saying Al Haidi, Casablanca, amongst others. And there is also a special invitation for Inter Miami.
Exactly. So Messi and the guys are going to be playing.
Definitely. I think it'll make an interesting spin on the event.
What's the coverage like in the UK and Europe for this event?
It's been covered exclusively by DAZN, the streamers. They seem to have done a global deal, and it's a very interesting one. DAZN are got a few footholds in soccer here in Europe, with Italy in the Champions League, a few other sort of tournaments, but it's a global package. It just sends another signal to me how these big streamers are now getting involved in live sports. They've seen it works. They've seen the audience it delivers and that unique audience. So you're seeing DAZN, Apple, and Amazon all getting involved in live soccer.
I gotcha. Here in the States, though, DAZN is they're sub-licensing some English language broadcast rights to TNT Sports for, I guess it's 24 of the matches, including the group, knockout stage, and the final across TNT, TBS, and True TV. Televisa Univision is the Spanish language player on TV, as broadcast networks Univision and Unimas dedicated sports channel. They'll broadcast 18 matches. That includes a couple from Inter Miami and Real Madrid and one from Atletico Madrid. And they're going to have coverage of the important matches at the end of the tournament.
There's been a fair bit of controversy attached to the event, because especially for some of the European teams, because it's just like it's another tournament tacked onto the end of the season, which effectively could affect the players' performance going ahead. They're playing another month after the end of a 10-month season. So there is elements of that, but at the same time, a lot of these big clubs go on worldwide promotional tours anyway. So there's an element of controversy, but it's the sort of thing they'd be doing anyway.
In its previous incarnations, it was champions of the different confederations, a much broader and deeper field. This time, this is a big moment for FIFA trying to play harder in the club realm. Richard?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of prize money, it's been said there's $1 billion in prize money split between the 32 teams, and 125 million for the winners. By comparison, to win the Champions League, the winners get 25 million, but there are some sort of bonus payments on the way to that. But outside that, The way I see it is FIFA very much has run international soccer. So they do the World Cup and the national teams. What we're seeing here is this is purely club football. And it's a chance for FIFA to get involved in club football, which they've never done before. And with these sort of tournaments, like for the World Cup, they generally raise somewhere in the region of $6 billion. But outside that 4-year cycle, they don't really raise much revenue. And this could be an opportunity to FIFA to raise some substantial revenue every year to add to their coffers. That's how I potentially see this playing out. FIFA looking to raise revenue and also get a toe into world club football.
Okay, we'll see how it works out, and maybe they'll do an equivalent with the women going forward too.
It could be inevitable, Mike. It will be inevitable.
You had listed the cities involved. So this is also the trial run for that little tournament next summer, right?
Definitely. You can see this being a really big moment for soccer in the US. Obviously, as you mentioned, Mike, you've got the actual Men's World Cup next summer, which is arguably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, sporting events in the world. You can just see this being a trial run for broadcasters, fans, sponsors, to just see how the US and obviously the US partners, Canada and Mexico, next year will be putting on a great event.
Okay. Looking at the matches and the clubs, Richard, what's your sense? Who's going to make a deep run here in this FIFA event?
Without sounding too jingoistic, you can't really see much past the traditional big European hitters of Real Madrid, obviously the new champions PSG, Bayern Munich, and Man City. But you never know. Into Miami, depending on the climate, you could see some of these teams more at home in these sort of weather conditions going deeper. And it's been a long season for a lot of these big clubs. So if some teams are a lot fresher out the gate, you never know. It's tournament football, and sometimes you need a bit of luck, and it can go a long way. A little bit like Tottenham this season.
So hot and humid might be a key here. We will see. Let's switch gears a little bit. We'll go to the Women's Euros, which will take place in Switzerland. I don't think it's hot and humid there very often, but I may be wrong about that. The tournament's taking place from July 2nd through the 27th. The host nation is going to be joined by 15 other national sides. Richard, give us a sense for how big a deal this is in the UK and on the continent.
As we've mentioned before, another podcast, Mike, the women's soccer around the globe is getting bigger and bigger, more successful and more appealing to commercial partners. In terms of how it shapes up, you've got 4 groups of 4 teams, and they always go through from that, the top 2 to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and finals. In terms of the growth of the success of it, the last tournament in 2022 had an adult reach of 27.4 million people, which is a huge number. And if you go back to 2009, the same women's European tournament, the reach was only 2.5 million.
Wow. Okay.
So You're seeing the growth in the women's game, and you can really see this sort of staying at these sort of levels.
I got you. As you mentioned, interest in the women's games skyrocketing. England, they beat Germany last time around. This has been Germany's event forever, right? They've won 9 of, 14 of these competitions?
Yes, that's right. Germany have always been a traditional powerhouse in the soccer world. I think they're probably on the women's global stage, only sort of rivaled closely by the very successful US women's team. But they are certainly a powerhouse, and they'd always be there or thereabouts. The same with Italy and obviously the current world champion, Spain. But hopefully England will make a decent fist of it for us UK fans.
Talk about the TV. This is on the top networks. You guys have a nice way of phrasing these.
Yes, yeah. A lot of European countries have sports rights that are protected. They're sometimes called the crown jewels. And these events have to be shown on free-to-air TV so everyone can access them. It's the deal normally done via the European Broadcast Union. So, for example, here in the UK, these games will be shown on channels like the BBC and ITV, France Television, RTL in France and Germany, respectively. So what you're going to be seeing is these games aren't behind a paywall or on streaming. They're going to be on free-to-air TV. So the potential exposure in terms of audiences is huge. And obviously, that's appealing to sponsors and commercial partners.
We were talking about this before. Amazon is trying to get in this in terms of capitalizing on merchandising sales.
Yes, this is true. I mean, Amazon, you have to take your hands off to it. They've signed up as part of the Amazon's women's football shop. And what they'll be selling on this sort of special portal will be TVs, snacks, drinks, and actual training kit, studs, fans, scarves, clappers. So Amazon, again, positioning themselves with live sport, which they're doing on the back of their other stuff, which they've got, for example, on the Champions League and some of the big international club football like the Europa League. So again, Amazon very much positioning itself with live sport. And I think they're very clever in the way they market themselves and cherry pick the events to be associated with.
In recent weeks, Disney Plus, they inked a deal here for streaming rights to the event. I'm not quite sure. Is it many nations or a handful of nations?
My understanding is they've done a deal. Most of these deals for something like the Champions League, one broadcast will generally have control over the event. So my understanding is Disney Plus will be taking control of the European Champions League, which is obviously the women's version of that event. You're going to be seeing the best teams in the genre playing themselves in the ultimate club competition. For Disney, it's another streamer position himself within live sport. I just think it's a very smart move.
I think here in the States, CBS Sports, they just grabbed the rights to the Women's Champion League, the Europa, and a couple of other UEFA events. So they have the men's and women's locked up for the next few years here. But back to the Euros in the States, big change afoot. Last time around, the tournament was on ESPN family of networks. This time, Fox Sports is there, and Fox is going all in. Each match window is going to get the Women's Euro Today treatment, featuring at least 30 minutes of pre-match analysis. 19 of the matches are going to be on Big Fox, the broadcast network, another 11 on FS1, and one on FS2. Chances are there's going to be a big viewership improvement. Last time around, I think the championship match here on ESPN got about 971,000 viewers. Can't imagine that Fox's coverage is not going to dwarf that this time around. We'll see. And then on the Spanish language side, we have Televisa Univision. They were in the mix last time around, and they're going to expand this time, not only with the Univision, Unimas, and TuneIn, but they're also going to have VIX, their streaming service, in the mix. No shortage of coverage here in the States for this.
As we know, the success of the US national women's team should reflect well and hopefully draw some audience into the European tournaments.
You mentioned Germany, defending World Cup champion, Spain, Italy. How about the Lady Lionesses or Lady Lions, Richard? How's England going to do this time?
We put our belief in there and hopefully they can do some decent things. As we mentioned, the women's game's really growing here in the UK. The Women's Premier League has just secured about 6 months a new deal with Sky and the BBC, which is a 63% increase in the value. We're just seeing more and more investment in the women's game here in the UK. So hopefully that reflects into the national team. Just looking at it from the outside in terms of prize money, it's a 41 million euros for the Euros this summer, which is a 156% increase on 2022, and reflects the growth in the women's game and in terms of the viewers and the sponsorships. And indeed, the Lionesses have been offered a bonus of £1.7 million for the squad if they can make it all the way through to the final. So there's money available for the winning team.
And a little incentive that way, too. We're going to move on to the CONCACAF Gold Cup. This is a big event in North America, the U.S., Mexico, Canada, 12 other CONCACAF clubs, and guest nation Saudi Arabia. It's taking place in 14 stadiums across 11 in the U.S. and 3 in Canadian cities. The event is also from June 14th to Sunday, July 8th. Like I said, a big event here. Richard, what about the Gold Cup in the UK and Europe? What's the reaction and anticipation for that?
Yeah, I think it will be a showcase for the competing nations to show their talent. And I think possibly it's for a lot of the players, it could be an opportunity to pick up some interest from the European leagues. These days, most of the big clubs around the world, they don't scout within their own countries, they scout around the world.
Sure.
I mean, you've seen some very interesting players coming out of the US. Xavier Gozo, for example, and Christian McFarland have been mentioned as players to watch for the future. So I just think there'll definitely be some interest. I think it'll be a new event. Obviously, people are aware of the World Cup next year. And I think also, as we were saying, it's the summer of soccer. And I just think for soccer fans everywhere, the chance to watch some exciting, high-quality matches throughout the summer during the off-season will be of great interest.
What's the TV like over there, or what's the coverage situation?
Yeah, from what I can see, Premier Sports seems to have the coverage here over in Europe, and also the CONCACAF streaming service, CONCACAF Go. So it's not got the exposure that the Euros have got in terms of those free-to-air channels, but it's been picked up by some sort of very serious sports channels.
Back in the States here, it's on the screens. It'll be on the screens of Fox and Televisa Univision. Fox is going to have 4 games, including 2 U.S. group stage matches, the first against Trinidad and Tobago on Sunday, June 15th, Fox will also air its final Group D game stage match on Sunday, June 22nd against Haiti. All told, Fox Sports 1 will air 24 Gold Cup matches, while FS2 is 3. Televisa Univision plays this big. There's going to be 17 matches on this flagship broadcast network Univision, starting with the tournament opener pitting defending champion Mexico versus Dominican Republic on June 14th. Second broadcast network Unimás will have 12 games, and then there will also be matches on TUDN and VIX, a lot of coverage. I think the idea here is that people are going to be disappointed on all sides and for different reasons if it's not Mexico and U.S. in the final, or at least Canada. If you go back to the 23 Gold Cup, Mexico over Panama, it had 4.3 million viewers on Univision and I think about 1.1 million on Fox. If you went back to the prior Gold Cup, U.S.-Mexico 2 years before that, there was 5.7 million on Univision and 1.8 million on Fox. I think people would like to see it go that way. It's also a situation where if, in fact, the U.S. and Mexico make deep runs, good opportunities for tournament sponsors, for exposure for Modelo Beer, Hilton Hotels, Toyota, Valvoline, New Water, Molten, which is the official ball for CONCACAF, and a handful of Saudi-based businesses. Richard, what's your take on what might take place here? Is it just Mexico and the U.S., or any sense for anybody else that might be able to break through?
I think you can't really see much past the US, Mexico, and possibly Canada, all of which have got some really strong players. It will be a shame because what I understand, Christian Pulisic, who plays for AC Milan, won't be playing for the US. So that would be a big miss for them. But I don't think we can underestimate the success and the appeal that the MLS has had in the US with Mr. Messi driving that. I think there's been so much more interest and growth, and therefore there'll be a sort of interest and appeal in what's happening in this Gold Club. I think it's a real opportunity for the whole North American continent to just embrace it in preparation for next year. So I can only see things moving in a higher direction. And again, a strong showing from those home nations will help drive that home. I think the people behind it now, Mauricio Pochettino, the US coach, great player, great manager, Argentinian sort of success story. I think he brings some real talent and expertise. He has a very unique way of playing, high press, high entertaining, high scoring approach.
Let's hope that is in fact the case. That concludes this episode of Media Talk. I want to thank Richard for sharing his vast soccer knowledge with us, and congrats again on Tottenham, Richard.
Thank you, Mike.
This is Mike Reynolds. Thanks to all of you for listening. Enjoy this summer of soccer. We'll catch up soon on the next installment of Media Talk.